So I'd like to start by asking you just to tell me about Nexius and what the company does.
Absolutely. So Nexius is an end-to-end technology services company that focuses on delivering optimization and business intelligence solutions for operators and leading carriers. And what we do is basically we focus on helping them deploy, optimize, and monetize their networks efficiently.
Okay, so we hear a lot of talk about big data and analytics, particularly for telecom service providers. But why don't you start off by just defining it from your standpoint, where the value is for telecom, and what are some of the areas where big data is being used to more effectively manage networks and deliver better services to customers?
The way we define it is it's really a strategy and a science when it comes to data. Effectively, you have to define a strategy that addresses the enterprise needs when it comes to big data, and there has to be a science in terms of how you achieve those results.
Okay.
And we're finding more and more that there has to be a core strategy for big data that addresses all the business units within an enterprise, compared to the traditional mode of creating sort of analytical silos for the different business units, for example, marketing, customer care, network, etc. Big data has really brought all that together to create a singular framework and a single source of truth that really addresses all of them.
So it's more of a holistic view of the enterprise then?
Absolutely, and not just of the enterprise, but really going both ways, how the enterprise impacts the customer and how the customer impacts the enterprise as well.
Interesting. So from the telecom context, what are some of the ways in which you're seeing big data being used to address some of the big issues for telecom providers, particularly in the area of how they manage their networks more efficiently to keep up with the spiraling, the explosion in bandwidth demand?
Take, for example, the Hadoop infrastructure, which is really now, I guess, has become very ubiquitous within, especially the operators. What it's done is it's changed the framework of how we deal with data from really trying to manage what data we actually collect to going to collect everything, creating data lakes that include all the data points that we have, and figuring out what we do with it later. It's made data storage cheap and accessible. We have a unique perspective because we do the end-to-end. We actually do everything from building the networks physically all the way to managing the post-production. And luckily, we've been able to actually get involved early on, from design and architecture, going through lab testing, field testing, production rollout, etc. So we actually get to see, not only do we get to see the end-to-end picture, but we actually have to, what we do early on in design, we actually end up having to support after production. So we pay a lot of attention to how we instrument the technology starting off before it gets to the point that we have to manage it.
You don't get to make a handoff and let it be somebody else's problem.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
With us basically having the experience of doing these things like rolling out new technologies such as voice over LTE or things like that, what we do is once we learn the typical challenges, the pitfalls, etc., we've developed a lot of processes and automations that help support these efforts.
Okay.
And we bring that to bear in terms of either developing turnkey solutions that are intended to address specific issues in the network.
Okay.
And we focus a lot on systemic issues that you'd start to find in different technologies or services that are provided.
Okay.
And on the other hand, there's things that we do, for example, with unstructured data that we're working on today. Our in-depth knowledge of the network allows us to actually do text analytics in much more constrained fashion when focusing on the telecom operators. So instead of, for example, sentiment analysis is something that's available for really anybody in a lot of open source tools. But what we've done, for example, is we take social media and customer care, we do speech to text, et cetera, and we analyze them to identify and proactively identify, is the issue the network, is it customer service, is it services, is it price, and so on, and be able to segment these discussions with the customers in order to create, in order to translate that voice that's coming from the customer either on social media or through a blog or through an interaction with customer care or within the retail store, and translate it to something meaningful that the network can use in order to create strategy plans or break fix optimization, etc.
Okay, so in that last example you gave, it sounds like you're really automating a process which used to be kind of tedious, where you have to figure out how to collate whatever input you've had from customers and then extract some conclusion from it. You've automated that process so you can get to that conclusion state a lot faster.
Absolutely, and for example, being able to correlate the actual network data, taking a look at your drop rates, your throughput, your performance, and being able to correlate it, does it actually impact my customer? So for example, taking a look at, let's say, an outage that takes place in a given location, we're able to correlate the social media coming out from that location and see how much it's actually generating buzz, within that place.
Okay.
And this applies to everything. There's something that at Nexius we call hyper-local analytics. So for example, taking a look at special events, taking a look at arenas, and see the feedback that's coming out from within that specific location, and see whether the network is impacting it, or whether there's a media campaign that's happening within the location, and see if it's generating buzz, etc. So it's very important not only to be able to see what the customer's saying and when, but be able to correlate it to the action that the network's doing in order to be able to make it really meaningful.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Great. Thanks for being here with me today.
Thank you very much.